All right, so this is the master plan steering committee. Today is October 15th, 2025, 7 p.m. This meeting's happening via Zoom, according with open meeting law. And this is meetings being audio video recorded and can be joined via Zoom. We'll start our meeting at 7:01. We'll start with any public comment. Don't see any public. I see a second Dave on here. I'm not sure if that is a second David or a member of the public joining.
I don't know who that is.
Okay, so it's not you. All right, well,
Not me.
thanks for letting us know. All right, so there'll be another opportunity at the end if anyone wants to wait that long or if anyone joins as well. So, all right. Is there any committee comment? So we have some good representation here from the various boards and committees we have. Oh. All right, so we will move over to, so we had some meeting minutes to, oh, let me get Tristan. Some meeting minutes over here that we just wanted to get through. There's 3 meetings that we just needed to take a look at and get approved. So whether or not anyone's looked at them in advance, but hopefully you have, we'll just take a couple of minutes right now to look through them if we need to look through in detail. So it looks like we have people who were there, anyone who was here that was or wasn't on here on the 23rd. Please let me know if your name's missing. And we'll move on to the next one, August 13th. So I think I feel like on the 23rd we were in person somewhere, so I'll just what was the 23rd? The 2nd, so I think we're in the library that day, so I'll have this updated just to reflect that. From the 8th, the 13th, I believe we're in the Ritter basement. Just add some last names here. We're starting in adjourn times. And again, just the location. All right. Otherwise, other than just like making sure the location is on here and just some people's last names. Anyone have any changes they'd like to discuss? No. All right. I'd like to make a motion with those 2 changes of adding the last names in the locations of these 3 meeting minutes from July 23rd, 2025, 8/13/2025, and 8/27/2025. Make a motion to have them be approved by the committee. I'll take a second. If People agree. I'm not hearing a second for that movement.
I wasn't
so
here for those meetings, so I don't feel like I'm in a position to second.
That is fair. Anyone who was in attendance?
Second, Glenn.
All right, thank you, Glenn. All right, if we'll take a roll call since we're in Zoom. So David's abstaining. Tony? Sorry, you're on mute. If I heard you or saw your mouth move, but we'll come back to you. I think we lost somebody here. But did we, I actually think we may have lost someone on the line. Hold on. Okay. So Tony, speak up whenever you can. Glenn?
Aye.
Great. Teddy? If you're speaking, I can't hear you. All right, we still can't hear you, Teddy, if you're trying to talk there. Mike?
Yeah, I'm gonna abstain. I wasn't at the meetings of it.
It's fair as well. So I'll go back to Tony. Okay, I see a thumbs up so that everyone can see a thumbs up to indicate aye.
Yep.
All right, and an aye for myself. So, all right, we'll get these meeting minutes posted over. Thanks for that. It was okay.
Teddy's
Teddy
aye.
got a thumbs up too. Thank you. Sorry, that was a struggle. Thanks, guys. Okay, so now we'll move on to any new committee feedback. So we did get a few more committees feedback. So now with my spreadsheet here, so we got Parks, Finance Committee. Those ones are relatively new that we've sent over to Rami, but we're still waiting on Planning Board. This shouldn't be yellow anymore because this was sent over. Really would like to hear back from Capital Planning Committee and the kind of official response for a school committee. I know we've had a lot of involvement from that committee on the board from Emily, but it'd be nice to have kind of the whole committee on record of these questions and how they're specifically impacted by their committee as a whole. We do have a few others that we haven't heard back yet, which would be super nice to have. But not a lot of they don't have a lot of the recommendations. So, oh, sorry, is someone trying to talk?
Kim, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
I was sitting in my car, and as a result, it put me on safe driving mode, and I couldn't turn the mute off. So I'm no
technology.
longer sitting in my car.
That's okay. Glad you figured it out.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, like I was saying, so we're still waiting on a couple of committees. Like I'm really hoping to hear back from Planning Board in particular, because we haven't heard too much. Obviously Glenn's here, so appreciate the representation. But again, same as school committee, I'd like to hear back from them as a whole. So that being said, Glenn, has the Planning Board Oh, wait, sorry, you're on the select board. Sorry. So I'm getting this all mixed up. Matt's not here. So I was hoping he would be here to talk about this, but I'll follow up with him separately. Unless anyone's been at the planning board meetings and has heard that they've discussed this. I haven't had time to look at their recordings. And they don't have minutes posted, so. Yeah. Okay. But overall, so some of the, I'll share, there is the spreadsheet that Rami and Tristan have been working on with us about, that has all of the combined feedback for all of the recommendations that we have put together. A lot have been like more about being clear and being more specific in the recommendations, and people being concerned of like how we would actually do it. You know, obviously doing the recommendations is part of the implementation committee, but obviously we want to be as specific as we can without like kind of, you know, tying our hands behind our back of being too limiting. So we've been working to kind of find that balance based off of the feedback that we've been receiving. But so far, and what we're going to use this for as well is drafting a list of which bylaws would need to be modified to achieve some of these. So thankfully, some of the committees have been providing us back with that level of detail, which is super appreciated. And we did just last night get the Parks Commission, so I'll be forwarding that over, Rami, to your team and Tristan as well. To add that in there. Thought I heard someone trying to talk there. Okay, so we are on track to present these at our October 22nd. Rami's going to put together a really great like slideshow similar to the one that you presented at a meeting a couple of months ago, which goes through like the engagement process and like the current recommendations and the goals that they stand at. So obviously we'll keep accepting feedback as we can from the committees up until obviously it's due. So, but town meeting, again, we'll have that presentation as well. And I think as long as the committee's feedback is just making things more specific and improvements, I don't think anyone's going to come back at this point and say, oh, this is entirely wrong. I mean, I hope not. We haven't so far. So, you know, we'll, like I said, keep accepting things, but, you know, we'll have to have a time point to stop accepting new ones because it'll have to be done by the end of December. All right, what I switched topics a bit, wanted to continue working on, and I know Tony's been working on this quite a bit for his committees that he's been working on, is the recommendation of having the draft like the building prioritization list for the town buildings, which includes, you know, the schools as well as the like town hall and Ritter and all the TC Passios building and Marshall Park, the Eagle House, and the Teen Center, based off of the kind of filtering down of the buildings based off of need. So we started talking about this at the last meeting, so wanted to continue. And I know Tony had some updates. He talked to the superintendent at his committee meeting, so I'd love to hear more about that. No. No, we can't hear you, Tony.
Okay, let's try that. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. I'm not sure what's going on here. All right. So at the Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee, we did get Dr. Fortuna to say, I don't want the Brooks House for ACE. And I do not want to be co-located with the town administrative staff. And the Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee is going to proceed based on that input from Dr. Fortuna. Now, she hasn't, got that finally approved by the school committee. But I think based on Laura's comments, she's a member of the school committee that participates in the Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee. I don't think that's going to be an issue. So that's a dramatic change from what we originally had going with regards to Town Hall and Ritter. It creates a much smaller footprint, and we will now have the ability to probably put all the town staff in both Town Hall and Ritter and not look for much of an addition. There may be, but you never can't tell. The other thing that I did today was I spoke to Bill Bernard from the Department of Public Works to make sure that we weren't missing a bit of work that might be related to his department. And Bill indicated to me that the only thing that he's looking at in terms of capital projects are some bridge / culvert replacements. And he says maybe $1 million. He says we usually get those funded through the capital planning committee process. He didn't see that as being the same as like a town hall or a Turkey Hill project. And I said to him that if he found something that he thought we should be considering as part of this prioritization process, to let me know. But he didn't think that that would be the case. He also agreed that it was good to have a list. He says he completely understood, why we're, trying to do that. And he thought that, he commended us for taking a look at coming up with a project priority list. The only other thing that I talked to him about to make sure that this wasn't something that would loom in the future, because there has been a lot of conversation about stormwater and stormwater prevention and plans. He indicated that what the Department of Public Works is doing is basically trying to come up with an annual assessment to town citizens for the stormwater protection plan that the town has to implement under the Clean Water Act. And that's going to be like a one-time a year fee of maybe $60. He wasn't sure on the exact total yet, so don't quote me on that. But it wasn't something that was going to be a huge tax burden to the town of Lunenburg. So I think that from my perspective, based on what I've looked at, I think we have the projects that are the ones that are most of most concern that should be looked at for prioritization over the next 10 years. And quite honestly, I think that we have a slam dunk here. I think that the town needs to do something with Town Hall and Ritter, and the town needs to do something with Turkey Hill. And if we can keep those costs relatively reasonable, we might be able to get support from the town to do both projects simultaneously. I think that from a standpoint of impact, you impact more with a Turkey Hill project than you would with a Town Hall Ritter project. But I think that in terms of need, in terms of the quality of the workspace, Town Hall and Ritter are probably in worse condition than Turkey Hill. But I think that we're looking at those two, the town administrative function, which has 2 buildings, and Turkey Hill School Committee project. I think those are the top priority projects that we have, and from there it drifts. And I think that the Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee did tour the Brooks House as part of its committee work, and I was there with the committee chair Dave Blatt, and everybody kind of agreed that the building was in reasonable condition for an old building, for an old house. Everybody was discussing the prospects of doing something along the lines of a lease or a sale, since we now knew that the ACE program wasn't destined to go into the Brooks House. So I think that we're looking at that as implementing what the Architectural Preservation District Commission had proposed at the special town meeting in 2023. And that was to, 2024, and that was to have the Brooks House either sold or leased. You know, so that would come off the list of a capital construction project. The TC Passios facility is, I think, the biggest challenge to any kind of a prioritization effort. And I mean, I certainly, like, for example, the town manager has asked the select board to put a $1.4 million roof repair project for TC Passios before the voters at special town meeting. And, you know, I think that while the need may be there for a roof repair, I don't think we've established any kind of use for that building on a long-term basis. So that makes it difficult to prioritize, you know, whether or not the town should fix up TC Passios's roof at this point in time.
Mhm.
And then you got the whole issue of who's in TC Passios and who's paying for the space. So that's my 2 cents worth on the current list of projects. We have a lot of great things that we want to see done, particularly with regards to the town administrative function and Turkey Hill. But from there, I think it really drifts into what should we do in terms of a prioritized list of projects.
Mhm. No, thanks, Tony. Jen, you have your hand up. Feel free to unmute.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you. I have a question for Tony about something that the Municipal Building Design Committee is looking at, and then I just have a clarification. So, Tony, when the Municipal Building Design Committee was contemplating the list over the next 10 years to come up with that, what were you using as a numerical threshold or loosely?
Well, Jen, let me tell you, the Municipal Building Design Committee specifically chose not to do a prioritization list. When we were, prior to talking to Dr. Fortuna, there was a significant amount of discussion amongst committee members about doing a prioritization list. And
Okay.
Dave Blatt said, that's not on our charge. And, you know, from the select board. And the end result was the committee itself is not doing anything in terms of prioritizing projects of the scope that Town Hall, Red Earth, and Turkey Hill represents. And that is one of the reasons why I thought, well, if the Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee doesn't see this as being their charge, maybe this is something that the Master Plan Steering Committee should look at in terms of coming up with input for, you know, what does the town do for the next 10 years? So there was no decision. I mean, Dave specifically waved that off as a requirement for the Municipal Building Design Committee. So I can't answer your question about what was the threshold.
Can I ask it let me ask a little differently than the way I asked it. We've identified these 3 projects, but what about a $100,000 project? Did you guys decide the scale of a project that you were only looking at? These are certainly major, but like, what was the threshold, I guess?
Yeah, like what, like level of like buildings and changes
Like
like
a
did we put
million-
on here?
Right, because I think that would change things a little bit. I think if we're talking about, you know, if we're talking about orders of magnitude of 500,000, let's say, I think that list is much larger. So I guess does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Let me tell you the approach that I took, Jen. What I did was I went to the town's GIS system and I identified all of the facilities that the town owns. And then I had that double checked by Chris Ruth to make sure I had everything that had a structure on a piece of ground that the town owned. And we basically came up with, I think, and Kim, I don't have the list in front of me.
Yeah, I can pull it up.
Yeah. You know, so we basically said, here are the buildings that if you did something would probably require more funding than what's traditionally provided by the Capital Planning Committee's annual review. And from my perspective, the threshold was anything over $1 million is probably beyond, it's a stretch for the capital planning pot of money. And it becomes very obvious when you look at the projects that were on the list. And Kim, maybe you can share that list with Jennifer. We know for a fact that Marshall Park's a multi-million-dollar project, Turkey Hill, Town Hall, Ritter, those are all multi-million-dollar projects. So multi-million became kind of the threshold for what would we prioritize. And anything that's close to what the capital planning committee would be able to do. Like, for example, I'll give you a perfect case in point. We have a relatively new cemetery commission building. And I specifically asked Bill today, I says, if you had to do something major with that building, would it be more than $1 million? He goes, no. He says, it's basically just a concrete block structure. I said, well, what about your building? And he goes, so this then goes to the next strategy that we employed to come up with this list. He says, my building's relatively new. He says, we moved in here in 2011. I says, what kind of condition is in it? Do you see any major work there? And he goes, no. So that was the strategy that we use. And Kim, I'll let you talk about which projects we are looking at for this list.
That was very helpful. Thank you. That was very helpful.
So I have open on the screen that prioritization kind of filtering down that Tony was talking about. And, so I think it was any large construction project. And was this? Yeah, so here it says, after filtering it down, it leaves, pretty much these candidates down here, which is what we have on our list and what we just started to try to prioritize. So
awesome.
That brings us to here. So we have, the schools where let me just have a side on my, we have the Turkey Hill, the middle and high school. Because this is where the school committee, Emily was very helpful at our last meeting, getting these like more specifics identified here. The primary school, so that would be like the school improvements, what we have down, Town Hall, and then Ritter. So we were imagining this would be obviously in a phased approach because we can't do everything all at once. We tried to do like, oh well, we could do schools first and like Town Hall second and Ritter, third, just to make a number for it. But then when you start looking into like the logistics of it, of like obviously if you're doing the school improvements, are we going to do the whole school? Would we do the whole school at once, or would we need to move the the offices to another area? Like what would happen to like when would we do the improvements? Like what would happen with all of that, like logistically? So maybe some things at Town Hall would have to be done at the same time. In which, like, do we need major renovations for Ritter? The major renovations, ADA accessibility. Obviously, I don't know all the details of everything all these buildings have needing to be done. But, of these other, so, TC Passios, we wrote down everything that was that we imagined that we could think of that was happening in that building, same as the Brooks House. Then we included Marshall Park, the Eagle House, and the Teen Club. Those last two, which we kind of put down to the lower end of the list priorities because they're relatively okay as is that we're aware of. Obviously the Marshall Park project is like really, important and huge, but, I think getting the buildings so people can be at, doing school and work are also, unfortunately, we prioritize them to a greater degree.
And just one point of clarification. So to the punchline, there was no TCP roof project on the special town meeting warrant. So to clarify, that was a couple meetings ago. We had been discussing about potential warrant articles, and there had been a prior appropriation of $300,000 to repair the roof. And it was very specific about when that vote was taken, which section of the roof was going to be repaired. So we couldn't just move the money to go fix something else without going to town meeting. So I had asked Chris Ruth to, originally thinking that we were going to just move that to another section and that would cover a substantial amount. I asked him to come up with a quote, and what you could do with 300,000 was not much. And so he showed that, and then he showed that the I think you're right, Tony, 1.4 million roughly, I think was the number, would be the whole roof, and that we wouldn't be going forward because that needs to go through the regular capital planning process if that's a project that we're going to advance. So there is no roof, but it was discussed. So just wanted to clarify that for everybody here.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that, Jen, because I think that it would have been difficult for that to get support.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
I think the town has to figure out what it's going to do with TC Passios. I mean, you know, I'm not sure that through this process of trying to prioritize our greatest multi-million-dollar construction projects that we can really give TC Passios its just due. I do think that you know, it's in my mind, it's pretty plain that if you went to the town and you said, would you support work at Town Hall, Ritter, and Turkey Hill? I think the town would support that. I really do. I mean, I think that, you know, when you look at what the needs are in those three facilities, it jumps off the page. You know, the other way to do it is to test it against the other projects that we know about, like Marshall Park. Is it more important to do Marshall Park than renovate Town Hall or Ritter or Turkey Hill? I don't think so. Do I think that Marshall Park ought to get in the queue? Absolutely. I mean, I think that, you know, the town has a need for that, for something like Marshall Park. You know, so maybe it becomes project number 4, you know, or project number 5 in this process that we're going through. I think that at TC Passios and Marshall Park are the next 2 projects that we should be looking at as a town. But TC Passios, it's very complicated. I mean, I think there's candidate for demolition. I think there's space in there that could be a great value to the Eagle House in the teen club, like the gymnasium. It is currently being used by those 2 facilities. And should the roof be repaired over the gym? Absolutely. But I think that, you know, what we're trying to do is get this in some sort of an order so that when we bring these projects to the town at special town meeting or ATM, that we go, hey, we're looking at this comprehensively, and it's not just a knee jerk. Let's do this right now. We were destined to failure, Jen, in my opinion, by bringing both Marshall Park and the Town Hall project to the voters. They were in competition with each other, and some might say that's not the case, but I think that they were in the eyes of the citizens.
Good feedback.
Yeah, definitely agree. That was how I felt as well. When I wasn't really involved in any of them, or hadn't really heard too much about either. I was like, where are these 2 giant projects coming together? So that's what we're trying to do here. And it's hard to get different committees to talk to each other, but by at least having this feedback stuff sent out, like, having other committees involved in this committee, like, hopefully just trying to like have that conversation started. So like, hey, like they're talking about this, maybe I should, say my 2 cents because I disagree. And that's also fine. I don't mind being, the bad answer, or, the thing that people don't like, because at least it gets people talking, gets people to the place sometimes better. All right, my video is getting all cut off, so apologies for that. All right, so to go back to, so we were talking about the Brooks house. So if the reason why we had this on the list was for the ACE program, then do we want to, I guess, remove it? Are we planning to do?
There's actually 2 facilities that are on there, 925 Mass Avenue, that the town owns, and the Brooks House. And while the discussion has taken place, and there has been, I think, significant conversation about the Brooks House being sold or leased, I think that you still need to keep it we need to keep it visible for action other than major renovation by the town. You know, I think that if we sold it or we leased it, the assumption is that whoever undertakes that project under a town-sponsored project development agreement, that doesn't get construction capital dollars from the town of Lunenburg's voters. I mean, so I think that, I see it as something that needs to remain visible, but I'm not going to prioritize spending $1 on the Brooks House at this point in time, based on the fact that no one else in the town wants to use it. I mean, that's how we brought it. That's how it came before the special town meeting for discussion about sale or lease. And then it was only after the town hall project was voted down in May that the Brooks House came back up as a potential for the ACE program. And that was under Dr. Burnham's regime. But now Dr. Fortuna is in place and she's saying, I don't want to use it. You know, so I think it falls at the Brooks House specifically is no longer something the town should prioritize spending any capital construction dollars on. And I think that that's what our list ought to say. It should say we need to dispose of by either selling or leasing it, but not to do anything with the Brooks House by the town.
Okay.
I
And
just,
925 Mass Avenue is also on that list, Kim. So those two ought to be clustered together. Whether they're pulled together as a single project, which I think would make it more attractive to a potential developer, or whether they're separate, neither one of those should get any capital construction dollars in the town of Lunenburg in our list.
I just want to
Okay.
that the library committee is meeting tomorrow night, and the one thing on this list that they very well may have some feedback on is some thoughts on the Brooks House. So I will find that out tomorrow night, and I'll relay their feedback if there is any. Obviously, the Brooks House is right next to the library, and I think there's definitely some thinking about what should be done there. So I'll let you know.
David, as I committed to the library when this was an APDC issue, the library needs to be a part of. If the town pursues a sale or a lease of the Brooks House, the library needs to be lockstep with the development of that project development agreement. We don't want anything in the Brooks House. It's a negative impact on the library.
Right.
You
I
know.
think we're all on the same page with that.
Yeah. It's, you know, and you know, that'll be part of what the project development agreement lays out. You know, it's like, we need to say, you know, you can't put something there that's going to be an impact, or it has to be reviewed by the library, you know, whatever you decide you want to do with this property.
Mhm.
That's good to know.
Well, thanks for mentioning that. Okay, so
Kim, could I ask a few questions about this and how it fits into the larger plan?
yeah, so the recommendation for that, we'd like to have a prioritized list of the buildings and what we would like to do with them. You know, I think that was, you know, it's very high level, like we're like us, you know, we're planning to assess. What we wanted to do, part of this was to, you know, kind of create that now of like, this is going to, you know, guide our plans for the future. You know, I'm not sure, like you know, if it is normally to this level of detail included in master plan, but, you know, it seems to be something, you know, that this town needs. And if we're making an executable, like, you know, plan that we'd like to, you know, have other committees base their opinions or their actions off of, and, you know, the funding is, we believe it would be great to include into that.
So I mean, the answer is yes, they are when there is consensus, and no, there isn't when there isn't. But it looks like based on the discussions you've had in the last few weeks, there's at least some consensus on the sort of top three,
Yeah.
which is great news. So it could be that we word it in such a way, and by the way, those first three projects shouldn't take you to the, if we're looking at a 10-year window, that's probably somewhere in a 3 to 5 year window. In other words, it shouldn't take there should be other projects you may want to consider in that window.
Mhm.
I'm going to jump in and disagree very, very strongly there. That we're a town, not a city. We do not have that level of borrowing capacity.
Okay, well that's helpful. what I was going to suggest, Jen, was that anything beyond that is not identified as a priority, but sort of if the town is ready and able to get to.
I think that knowing this community to message that they would have more than a potential of 2 debt exclusions in the next 10 years will kill any likelihood of success of any of them. It's not realistic, and it's not something that I think should be proposed. So the reality is that these big projects are going to require debt exclusions. And so that is a taxpayer voting directly to increase their own taxes. I don't want to put a unnecessarily poison pill here.
Yeah,
Fair
no, I
enough.
think that's a great perspective to have. Like I think if we overcommit and want to do too many things, I think that, people will just see that as, oh, more money. So they're not going to want to do the school and the town hall inverter because they're gonna be like, well, now then we're gonna have to do all these other things too. So I think keeping it a bit more conservative would, gain more support just based off of, the history of the voting in the town on these types of projects. So thanks for that perspective, Jen. Although I do, understand that having like stretch goals is good, and like, yeah, like great, like if we finish these, like what do we do? Like we want to have something in the plan. But I think, let's say we get through these for some reason, and we still need to do Marshall Park and the Passios building. So I think, 5 projects is more than plenty. So to kind of go back to this, so we're saying here that all the schools need for these big types of projects is Turkey Hill renovations, middle high school athletic field improvements, and the primary school entry, exit, and playground. Is this accurate? I know, like, the middle high school itself is fine. I wonder if people are going to start questioning, this athletic field improvement, because that is like a, exterior kind of thing for extra recreation that we might not, need, and like they'll lump it into, oh, well, I know, instead of doing that, why don't we do Marshall Park? Just playing like a little bit of devil's advocate here.
Is Emily on?
No, there's a school committee meeting tonight,
Oh.
unfortunately. So
Okay, I was going to say, I don't want to speak for the school committee, but as far as I understand, this is going forward as a submission in this round of capital projects. So that project, I believe, is going to be before the voters at the May annual town meeting.
oh, okay, the field improvements.
Yep.
Okay, so may already be voted on. Okay. All right. So that would be good. Kind of get that off of the list. So primary school entry exit. There's no plans on primary school building itself. Like big plans.
No, that project is the twofold, Kim. The school project at primary is 2 things: the revising the playground and to do something with the entryway. And Jen, I'm not sure that the school committee has made a final decision with regards to what's going to be on that, what they're going to move forward. I think they're still discussing it based on
Okay.
what I heard from Tony.
Okay.
So,
I thought
yeah.
they had voted. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean,
It's possible then. It's possible that it's on this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. Hey, Kim, I hate to tell you this, but I'm going to have to log off because I'm almost out of juice. Is that going to bring the meeting to a close in terms of quorum?
Let me take a look. 1, 2, 3. So we'll have me, Dave, Glenn, and Teddy would leave us 4. And then, well, it possibly could, because Mike, I was told and I have to confirm this with the planning board, and maybe Mike can help us out with that. Were you sworn in as a member of this committee? I thought you were, and like it was reinstated by the planning board for FinCom. Because up until maybe right before this meeting, I was under the impression that you were.
I don't remember, quite honestly. I'll have to check with the check in and see.
Yeah, because I remember planning board saying that they were reinstating FinCom, but I was told that might not have been the case. Like right at like 6:50. So
Okay.
yeah. So so yes, Tony, I think if we lose you,
Well, what else do we need to cover? Because I know my phone's gonna die.
yeah. So that was really getting this further and further done. Was all that was left on the agenda.
Okay.
So, I think so for TC Passios, because I remember you said the board is going to move forward with the TC Passios and the town hall plans, or the town hall and the Ritter plans. What about TC Passios? We have to decide.
Yeah, I think that's still up for discussion.
Yeah. Okay. So pretty much we'll have this phase 1, school improvements, town hall, Ritter. I mean, obviously we know we need to do that. We need to finalize what needs to be done and then how to fund it, essentially. So, okay. So I think without having the schools here for more details, and do we need more information than this for right now?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Because that's the question of I don't know what I don't know. Okay. So I'll send this, I'll add this into the documentation with the meeting minutes, so that people can view that with the minutes there. Okay, so Tony, were you just gonna want to wait until you die, or do you want to before your phone dies?
I was gonna say, actually, I'd like to log off.
Okay, that's totally fair.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna follow up with planning board and the various committees. David, we'll be looking forward to hearing back from the library what they want to what they have to say about the Brooks House.
Sure, within a couple of days, yeah.
Perfect. All right. So with that, I'll just go back to any committee comment or public comment. No. All right. I will make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Perfect. And we'll do roll call. David?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Teddy?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye. I'm allowed to vote.
All right. Glenn?
Aye.
All right. And I for myself, so 7:50, we will adjourn and have a great night.
Thanks, guys.
Good night.
Thank you.